Cause and effect proves that consciousness has consequences. A meaningless universe or pointless universe isn't what we're seeing here. For the universe to be truly pointless or meaningless, there should be nothing happening. You cannot have a universe where you have actual experiences that are aware of themselves and can experience sensations, and through these sensations cause ripples in existence that change the environment and change what happens. You cannot have this and then also say the universe is meaningless and nothing really matters. What you're doing is you're always avoiding how much things actually matter, how interconnected things really are, and how profound this nature of existence truly is. Because it's the correlation within the universe, like all systems interacting with themselves, that causes the sense of meaning. So meaning is a relationship between two different things. And by looking at each other from different perspectives, you create a sense of meaning, because now you have something to contrast with another thing. It's like how the idea of nothingness only means something with something, right? With something to contrast it against, you create something that is true. And what people often do in philosophical spaces is they try to pretend they can move themselves out of the sense of responsibility, of experience, or meaning by thinking about existence in a way that keeps them at a distance from reality. As if you are kind of like a scientist that objectively observes reality as if it is separate from it, and then just looking at it as, some foreign separate entity. But it doesn't make any sense, because you have always consciousness and physical reality merged into one experience. So there's no way observing can look at its own observation without still being observing something and therefore interacting with what it's observing. You cannot look at a stone and then say that the stone is eternally separated from you. Because if there was real true separation, then there wouldn't even be a stone to perceive. You are always causing an interaction with something in your external environment as long as you are alive. And to dismiss this is a strategy the ego uses in order to avoid all the immensity that it truly means to exist. So when you let every experience let flow through you, like if you see that there's no escape from your life and there's no escape from existence, and you actually let all of this happen, then your ego starts to thin out. You start to become conscious of the fact that you are truly a human being with so much power and actively causes immense effects on your environment, like both positive or harmful. And often people realize this power at some point in their life, and then they crawl into a shell, and they don't actually want to engage with that because it's too much. I remember some part where I was like still a kid, and then I just had this like consciousness awakening feeling of like, whoa, I am alive, I do exist, and I can like make choices. Like I can decide what I want to happen. And there's some sort of wakefulness feeling that comes with that, because you start to get a bit on autopilot, right? You've been so conditioned from cause and effect, like to think for things to run in like similar ways. And then awareness is that what kind of observes in a meta way what is going on. And in there it finds a silent center that feels like closest to a real identity. And this identity might feel separate from cause and effect. It might feel like it is always there and forever will be there. And as deeply as this truth can resonate with one, it is very important to then be able to come back logically to the facts of reality and notice that reality is still real and there is still cause and effect, and no sort of spiritual realization or awakening will change that. The ego always tries to kind of corrupt whatever it realizes into like a new way to make itself feel special. This works both for philosophical realizations and also for spiritual realizations, where you understand some deep nature of a thing, but then instead of being able to look at it objectively, you start to make it into a personal story that puts you as like the winner or the hero or as the redeemer. And a specific example for this would be that you kind of figure out for a moment that you have been lying to your partner, for example, or to a good friend. And you have been lying to them about something, let's say, intimate. Like maybe you didn't want to express something that was actually very close and dear to your heart. And then you realize that the reason you haven't shared this intimate secret to your friend or to your spouse or whatever is because you feel like it would make you be perceived as weak. Like if somebody knew the secret of you, people would think you're weak. And then you can have the recognition, oh, okay, I feel all of this stuff and I don't want to tell it because I feel like I'm going to be seen as weak, and I really need to stand my ground and be perceived as somebody who can hold it together. And then the meta layer of it all is that you can have this realization and it can dissolve something within you, and you can notice, okay, I don't want to care about feeling weak or not. It's okay to be weak sometimes. It's okay to be helped sometimes. And then you might have this recognition that this is what's going on within you. And then this recognition in of itself becomes a new identity to like increase your ego, where you then go, wow, look at how aware I am of myself. Look at how I could observe myself in this way. I must be very awake. I must be very spiritually enlightened. I must have seen a lot about my own nature. I must be very psychologically deep, stuff like this. And it's very common, and it happens very subtly. Like that, it doesn't even have to be an act of thought. It might be just something that runs in the background. And a lot of people who are very intelligent, very aware of their environment, they start to pride themselves subtly about all the things that they can see. And then kind of your identity becomes of the one who sees yourself and sees the nature of reality and sees existence. And there is this false sense of security there sometimes. And often then it takes like a intense event, either be it a strong experience like taking a lot of psychedelics, maybe more than you can handle, or going through a breakup, witnessing a death, or having some other type of intense experience that shakes you from this sense of security a bit. And then you notice, oh, wow, I was just pretending again. I was pretending all the time. I recently made a video called Every Spiritual Truth is Just, the ego trying to pretend. And there I cover this idea deeper, because it is really about the sense of pretending that kind of divorces you from cause and effect. And it divorces you from the idea that your actions really matter. And when you then get hit with reality, then all of this stops working. And then you notice that, oh yeah, I don't know anything. I'm very small, and actually I am not in control at all. So it's this entire process of integrating these different parts of the mind coherently within your body and in your system, and understanding how you function, that brings sincere peace and contentment. And it also avoids the spiritual trappings of creating a spiritual identity out of whatever stuff you're realizing, because you're really looking towards being human at the end of the day. You're really trying to understand yourself for what you are and for how you function. And I help people with this directly in my one-on-one ego architecture audit, where you can get more info about this entire protocol in the description below. There's nothing more important than realizing the depth of your own mind and how it tries to delude yourself into this false sense that there is no responsibility, or there's no really mattering consequence for your action. because all the mind then does is to relativize things that should not be made relative. It is pretending that things won't be felt when they actually will be felt. And from the other side, being honest with oneself is just extremely pleasant. Like, it brings you confidence. It brings you genuine confidence in almost all situations, because you know who you are, and you don't need to pretend to know more than you know, or you don't need to pretend to have more expertise than you actually have, or to pretend to be more secure than you actually are, right? To really see how your body and your mind functions is peaceful, because all of this architectural layer that try to hold up your identity kind of drops, and you notice that you're kind of still the same person, because fundamentally you're just you, and you were just pretending to be something above yourself, which is literally impossible. That's where the idea of non-duality makes everything one, because any sort of distinction that you have, even with yourself, the distinction of meaningful or not meaningful, determinism of free will, fullness or emptiness, realization or not knowing, like all of these dualities kind of start to be shed as things that don't really matter. They're words that point to something true, like patterns of the universe that we are able to extract with language and then communicate for better understanding. But they're not you. They're just patterns. The same with cause and effect. The same with the consequences of your action. Even these are ultimately also not you. And this is where, you have this non-dual twist, where you both realize that everything is extremely real and important, and it truly matters, and it's mostly a personal matter, really. But then also, you really are never definable. You're never just one thing. You are the thing that infinitely morphs, and therefore can have an infinite amount of experience, and therefore can realize its own freedom.